Guys, here's an interesting comparison. So I have the iPhone XR here on the right side and the iPhone X here on the left. So what's really the difference in 2023, how you should view these devices this year? So yeah, let's get into it. The first biggest difference, which is kind of obvious since the day one, was that although the iPhone X is technically the flagship released 1 year earlier, but the iPhone XS released alongside the XR is looking the same as the iPhone X. And what I'm trying to say is that this device is supposed to be a flagship, and this one is a budget iPhone, but this is the iPhone XR is much bigger. If you look at them, it's like a chunky iPhone. It's not that compact. You can see that although the screen isn't really that different, but the frame, you can see the bezels, all the stuff is like much bigger and chunkier. If you put one on top of each other, like you can see that it's wider, it's bigger. You can see that it's a bit taller, it's a bit wider, so it's much larger device. So this is just an interesting comparison. Although this is a budget iPhone, it's larger, so that's kind of interesting. If you want a tiny bit smaller iPhone, then the 10 is definitely the better option for you. Also, it's not just about the size, but look at the bezels. I'm gonna try to show it to you the best way. So if I, for example, open up the settings, you can see the white background behind it, and if I zoom in the camera, you can see that there isn't like a difference between the bezels. So you can see that if I put them like side by side, the bezel is actually larger and a lot larger on the iPhone XR compared to the iPhone X. I mean, it's not that big of a deal because, of course, we're kind of used to it already, but I don't know, it feels kind of different. It's a different feel when you look at them side by side because, yeah, like I said, the XR is much chunkier piece of tech. Big difference here is the lack of 3D touch, because the iPhone XR was, if you remember it, it was the first ever iPhone to not feature the 3D touch capacitive display, which means that it was the first pretty much iPhone since the iPhone 6S, which didn't feature the 3D touch technology, because the 6S was like the pioneer in this, and it went all together like the iPhone 8, 10, 10s and stuff, but the iPhone XR was the first to skip it. And for me, one of the coolest things about the older iPhones, especially the iPhone 10, 10s, iPhone 8, is that you actually get to have the 3D touch. And this is something like you get at the old iPhone, which is cool because they usually have 3D touch, but this one does not have it. So for me, that's definitely a very deciding or like very important factor. It may not be that important for you. If that's the case, then you shouldn't really care about it. But if you just take a look at the difference in the speed, like you can get to some toggles right away, and it doesn't matter what you do, it's literally the same toggles. And it's not because of the iPhone is like that much slower, because you can see there's like a huge difference in here. But that's because the iPhone X has the 3D touch. It knows right away that I'm firmly pressing, while the iPhone XR just expects to see if I actually long press or was it a regular touch. It doesn't know that because it doesn't have 3D touch. So for me, it just adds up, and I like the feel of faster devices. I mean, they feel faster when they do have the 3D touch pressure sensitive display. So that's like another thing to keep in mind. Speaking of the display, you definitely get much more quality when it comes to the iPhone X. Of course, this is an OLED, this is an actual LCD, which is of course really good, because when the iPhone XR came out, everyone was like really bothered because of the screen and stuff, that it's not like the best quality, and like it's not even 1080p on paper and stuff. But I wouldn't say that it's such a big problem, because the display looks really cool in comparison or in contrast to the paper specs, because on paper it doesn't sound good at all, but when you look at it like in real life, it's definitely like a good and usable phone, even in 2023. But compared to the iPhone X, which features an OLED screen, well, the difference is definitely there. So if you're really into this, or if you want to just look at the display in a direct sunlight, or especially outdoors, then you'll have a better experience with the iPhone X. But like I said, don't let the small specs or not even the 1080p display LCD on the iPhone XR like deter you from buying it or trying it out. Like if you can at least see it in person, if the display is not like scratched up or destroyed, that I think that you're gonna actually enjoy it. Like, there's nothing really wrong with that. These devices are most likely of the lowest capacity, so you can see that if I go here, you can see it's the 64 gigabytes, and this one is also 64 gigs. So in this case, it doesn't really matter. But if I would want to upgrade, or if, let's say that I want more than 64 gigs, on the iPhone 10, I can only go to 256, which is like a lot compared to 128 jump, which is like the double storage. This is like quadruple the amount of storage, which of course, the more storage, the better, but it also reflects in the price. So that's like something to think about, because here you have definitely more options with the iPhone XR. Another thing would be the color variations, because this is the iPhone 10 and this is supposed to be the cool looking professional iPhone. So it's not available in many colors, only in black and white. The iPhone XS, which looks identical, is only has one more color, which is gold. But the iPhone XR, although this is again the black color, which is almost looking the same, it's probably the exact same color as I see it, or just like a very small difference. But besides the black color, you also have many different color variations for the XR. So if you want to like customize your device and you use like a transparent case for your iPhone, so the color is actually visible, because if I slap a case on it, then I don't really care about the color. So that's the case as well. Or if you use your iPhone without any protection, then you may want to actually customize it by actually buying a different colored iPhone. And with the iPhone XR, you have plenty of options to pick from, like very vibrant red, orange, blue colors, whatever. So there are like plenty of options which you can pick from, unlike with the iPhone 10, which only is available in black and white. Of course, if you're okay or don't really care about the colors, then yeah, this is kind of irrelevant, but for other people, this may be kind of crucial. Another thing is the difference in the software support. Since the iPhone 10 has been released 1 year earlier and the iPhone XR came the year after it, it means that in a regular iOS update cycle, it's gonna get one more additional year of software support. So this is again something to think about. Like many people commented under my video about the iPhone 10 that yeah, it's a nice phone and everything, but the support is about to stop. Like you're not gonna be able to get perhaps not even iOS 17. Who knows? Maybe iOS 17, and that's gonna be the last update. So not really much going on in here. I would definitely think about it and consider it before buying it. And of course, it doesn't mean that the device becomes unusable if no software updates are available, but if you get like a new feature, let's say the focus mode is going to be added, and as it was in iOS 15, if your device just stops supporting it, then you're not going to be able to get it. So you're going to lack some features and the latest security patches and stuff. So yeah, of course, you can still use it, but it's not going to be the latest or the best software experience. Another thing to keep in mind is that the camera setup, you probably have seen like 1,000 videos of the differences, and I think that both of these cameras are really cool. But here we have the dual lens compared to single lens setup, and both devices can take portrait shots. But because the iPhone 10 uses the telephoto lens to like measure the distance between the object, the portrait shots look kind of different, and I would say that I even like those from the iPhone XR a bit more. So I'm not gonna like go out and show you any photos, but here, right here in the studio, let me just zoom it out a bit so you can see that this is like the object which I'm gonna take a portrait shot of, so you can see portrait like this. And the point I'm trying to make is that although the object can be like used for the portrait shot, because of course you can snap a picture of these objects and the photos are kind of nice, like the background is still blurry and stuff, but it doesn't actually use the portrait shot, because you can see here is the portrait button or like tab at the top of the screen, but here I don't have anything because it's a regular photo. And the problem is that the portrait shot didn't detect any person, since this only uses the software for the portrait shots. It means that it can only like use the software to like detect the outline of a person and like blur the background behind them. You cannot use it for any other objects, which kind of sucks, to be honest. But yeah, you can still take photos, which as you can see right here, this was like without any portrait shot, or I was actually in the portrait mode, but it didn't like apply it. But you can see that the background is still blurry, so it looks kind of nice. It's not like bad or anything, but it's not as differentiated as you can see with the portrait shot enabled on the iPhone 10, which actually uses the telephoto lens. So that's how it works. I mean, it's not bad, but yeah, you cannot really use the portrait to such a degree as you can on the iPhone 10. So that's another difference. When it comes to speed test, it's kind of hard to test it out. These devices are pretty much empty. You could see the storage sheets. So if I open up some things, it's pretty much the very same thing, very similar. You cannot expect like a huge difference, and I don't even have access to the internet, but let me just open some random apps. And as you can see, it just opens it up at the same time. You can see that the iPhone XR was kind of slower to like recognize the background and stuff to like load up the app completely. You can see that if I open up calendar, I mean, it is pretty much the same thing, like not a huge difference going on in here. So yeah, one app may be faster once than the other, but it all just gets tested when you use some intense apps, and both iPhones are not going to stack up the best. And if you use some or play some 3D games and stuff, then both iPhones are going to overheat. So I don't think that there is like a huge difference in the performance. Anyways, that would be about it. That was my comparison like in 2023 and with in terms of the iOS and latest updates and things that are going on. So hope the video helped you out. For more content, make sure to subscribe to Foxtecc Devices and also check out the next video right here. Thanks a lot for watching. See you guys later.